Hey there, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with next week's stocks to watch for trading and investing. Make sure you go check out the blog. I give you a full breakdown of all the different sectors that are of interest to me for the upcoming week. We had a nice little pop on Friday. Lacked volume, but still nice pop. Reclaimed some 200-day moving averages. Had some areas of potential price support, active support, got a little bit of a bounce. It'll be an interesting week ahead for the bulls. We've got the big earnings out of the way so far, which haven't reflected, even though the earnings are extremely strong or have been, have not reflected in the overall markets. And now we're actually going to start seeing some, lesser known names, smaller cap names, mid cap names that'll be reporting. And actually, IWM has been one of the stronger sectors out there. So now that we've got these big earnings behind us, it could be an interesting week ahead. And we'll see if we can get the bulls to really take control and get some follow through this week. And if that happens, we could have a pretty vicious snapback in some sectors. So make sure you go check out the blog at alphawolftrading.com and see my breakdown of all the different sectors that are of focus for me this week. But let's go ahead and hop right into the stocks to watch for next week. Now, I've got some that have earnings on deck next week that have nice looking setups on the daily. We're going to get earnings from Disney. We're going to get earnings from Mosaic. We're going to get earnings from NVIDIA, which is also another big one this upcoming week. And I think those are worth keeping an eye on, as well as the list that I have here. TWLO got a really nice looking setup on the daily here, flirting with the $43 holla. They have earnings next week. One thing I wanted to bring up about TWLO and TWLO is one of the things that I pay really close attention to, and I'm not suggesting that this is, the all clear sign to buy a stock is when you've got insiders buying, but it certainly doesn't hurt, right? So just to show you, back in May of 2017, the CEO picked up 100,000 shares at $23.43. Here we are a year later, and the stock has basically doubled. That's not a bad return in a year's time, right? So $43 is where we're at. We've got earnings coming up. It's got a pretty nice looking setup on the daily. You just had a golden cross. You're above the 200-day. All the moving averages are sloping nicely. Now, we could have a good earnings report and then a pullback like we've seen recently, especially from some of the tech companies, right? So we could see a good earnings report and a pullback. I think it becomes pretty compelling somewhere in the $36 area, maybe even just a pullback to the 50-day around $38, $39. So, and if they report a good earnings and we get a good break with some volume, it could be a nice breakout candidate. So worth keeping an eye on TWLO this week. RMBS. Great looking setup on the daily, right? So semiconductor name, we had a little bit of a bounce in semis on Friday. If you look at what this stock has done, it's been really kind of consolidating here between $13 and $14. It's hanging out right around all the moving averages. Had a nice little pop, $14 holla on Friday. Now it was up a few days in a row, so and it is overbought, so it could need to take a little breather here, maybe consolidate, maybe we drift back and test the 50 or this cluster of moving averages, find some support. It's got 94 million shares in the float. Let me see. These guys might be reporting next week. So pretty good looking setup though on the daily time frame. And I like the way that the SMH reclaimed the 200-day, but it's testing the underside of a long-term trend line. You'll see that on the blog. We'll have to see how this plays out, but pretty good looking setup for a potential flat top breakout on RMBS. WTW reported last week, smashed earnings, had a pop and then a pull. So, look, if this pulls back into the $60 area, $61.50, $60, I think it becomes compelling as a swing. There's a big short position there. Small float, 24 million shares in the float. They had great earnings and great guidance, but we've got price resistance acting as price resistance, right? We got up to about $76 and pulled back. So maybe look, it was a tremendous earnings report. I think you get on a pullback, if this thing were to actually get down to $60, that gets very interesting for a potential long-term hold or a swing trade on a pullback to that price support. So not in a rush to jump into WTW, but definitely keeping an eye on it after a very strong earnings report. AAXN, I believe that they report this weekend, or next week, I'm sorry. I believe they report next week. Now, I had a nice pop on Friday. They bought a competitor, and that was announced on Friday. Typically, the company that does the buying, you see a pullback, right? Unless it's going to be accretive. And it had a nice pop. It's testing all-time highs. And it's been in consolidation mode for a while. Now, stochastics is just starting to curl up. And it was good volume on Friday. This is another small floater, 35 million shares in the float. Probably wait until after earnings. Maybe you get a nice earnings pop and then a pull. Then maybe you look for a pullback to support around $43. What I'd really like to see is I'd like to see AAXN pull back into the 50-day, somewhere around this area, $38, $39. See if that holds a support for a swing or long-term hold consideration. There is a gap to fill on the daily down here, and that is somewhat concerning, but gaps don't always have to fill. We'll have to see how this plays out, but it's been really tight consolidation, and I think this is a decent consideration for a long-term hold or a swing play. Could be a good day trading opportunity if we get some real range on off of the earnings report, but keep an eye on AAXN. NGVC reported strong earnings on Friday, either Thursday after close or Friday. I really like the look of this one too. Now this is a big pop, big candle on Friday, big volume for it. 4.8 million shares in the float, fairly small float. Look at where it came up to. Tested $9 and found some resistance, pulled back. So, look, I'm looking at this one and saying maybe we get a pullback into the $8 area, maybe even pull back to the $7.80, $7.50 area. That could be an interesting spot to take for a swing or long-term hold consideration. It's a smaller float, higher risk because of that. I believe they announced a share buyback program as well. I just like that. This could be a potential day trading opportunity, right? If we get some continued volume, some follow through, a pullback, like I said, to $8 or $7.50 could be your entry point. Looking for a bounce there, but pretty good looking setup. And then if we take out $9, where do we go if we can take out 9? I think potentially we get a pop. We'll probably have some resistance at the $10 area, and then maybe get a pop up into the 10.50, 10.80, somewhere in that area. But broke this long-term trend line, right? There's a lot of things I like about this one here. Broke the long-term trend line. This could be a new trend reversal for this NGVC. Definitely worth at least having on your radar. Maybe doing a little due diligence on this one for your long-term hold consideration. APRN. So I have been watching APRN for a while. What was his name? What's his name? Kevin O'Leary came out with this as a spec play for his stock pick selection for some competition on CNBC. This actually, they reported earnings, and some of the metrics were better than Wall Street expected. Got a little bit of a bounce, and it is in an interesting spot. Now, it has been consolidating for a while in this area. It does have the 50-day overhead as potential resistance. Maybe what we look for is a pullback as close to $2 for an entry as possible. Could even, pull back and retest that 175 area. And I actually am looking at this one as a long-term hold lotto play. I think potentially they could be an acquisition candidate, but that isn't why I'm looking to buy it. I'm looking to buy it because it appears as though the metrics are getting better, and they just announced a deal with Costco, and that could actually help them out quite a bit as well. So looking for a pullback into the $2 range to try and get some shares to start building a position, and then would build it out if it were to pull back and test to 175. Now look, if it breaks below 175, we have no area of potential support, right? Because it's making new all-time lows. So something you have. I mean, this is not for the weak-hearted, the faint of heart, right? You've got to be able to withstand that type of action, and I'm willing to take the gamble on APRN. So I think it's worth having on your radar. SMSI, they report earnings this weekend, and I'll be honest, this has actually been a devil stock for me in the past. I've done okay with it at times, and then I've gotten beaten up pretty good on it too. The CEO is he's not real good at the under-promising and over-delivering thing. He's pretty good at over-promising and under-delivering. So, they just recently did a capital raise. They have earnings coming up. Now, the T-Mobile Sprint combo, not exactly sure how that may impact this stock because they have a contract with Sprint. So, it's got a decent setup. It's consolidating over the 200-day moving average, right? It's sitting on top of the 50-day. If these guys report good earnings, they report on May 9th, could get a nice pop here. Could be a day trading opportunity. There's a guy I follow, Mark Gomes, that really loves this stock. This is one of his long-term hold plays, and he's done a lot of due diligence. He's looking at this thing as a long-term hold and, thinking it could go. I think his target was $20 on this thing. But earnings could be very telling for this week. Could be a day trading opportunity. Could be a high-risk swing. Worth keeping an eye on it. I probably would wait until after earnings before taking a position. If you do take a position into earnings, you just take a lotto position, right? But SMSI, worth keeping an eye on. ZOES. One of the pro members brought this up on Friday, and it's got a really good look. They report this week. Now, the only thing I would say is that it has run into earnings, right? And we're right at an area of potential resistance. This is another small floater. 10% buyer just bought, 10% owner just bought 1.3 million shares at $14.34. So maybe if they report good earnings, but you got to pull back into the $14 range, where you have the 200-day moving average, that could be an interesting spot for a bounce. And if we take out this trend line with any kind of conviction, there could be a day trading opportunity here. Restaurant sector in general has been pretty hot. The whole space looks pretty good. There's a lot of good-looking charts within that space. If these guys report good numbers, you can see a nice pop out of ZOES. Worth keeping an eye on it. RIG. Great looking setup on the daily. Just pierced below the 20-day stochastic, starting to curl. Energy, oil, the space has been hot. Now, one of the things that I suggest on the blog is that, what has been recently very hot, if the markets, if the bulls were able to take control, there is a possibility that maybe what we see is a rotation out of what has been hot for the last couple, last month or so. See some rotation out of energy and see some money flow into some of these beaten down sectors. And to see what those sectors are, you'll have to go to the blog. All right, so rig has a nice look. There are a couple energy names that I really like the look of, but keep in mind that if the bulls are able to take control, maybe money flows out of this space and you see a little pullback, or at the very least continued consolidation in these names. So I like the look of it. If it breaks over the trend line with conviction, maybe you get a pop up into the 1350 area. If it drifts back and tests the 50-day around $10.70, $11, that could be an interesting spot for swing potential. ATOM, very small, low float. Hold on a second. TC2000 just took a pause on me. Hold on. All right. ATOM, small float, right? Decent volume on Friday. 180. This only got 11 million shares. 184,000 shares traded hands on Friday. Was able to reclaim the 50-day moving average. Now, I'm thinking maybe a red to green move here. We get a pullback to 550 or so, 540. See if that holds the support. Semis, like I said, we'll see if we get any follow through. But this one could be This one could be worth having on your radar for a day trading opportunity if you get some real volume and if we get some follow through in the SMH. But potentially go back up and test these highs around $7.48. So day trading opportunity there with volume. You have to have some volume. You don't want to be jumping into something and get stuck. So worth keeping an eye on it. Not sure when they report. Make sure. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. They're already reported, it looks like. All right, so this one, potential red to green move, could be a day trade, could be a high risk swing just because of the small float. CPST, nice tight consolidation. It is, I've been watching this one here consolidate just above the 50-day moving average. Might need more time, could get a trend line break. I think maybe get a 2 test on CPST. Kind of got a big, here's what I like about it. Got a big cup with handle formation on this, right? As we pull back to the 50-day as potential support. Stochastics curling up. I like the look of CPST quite a bit. Now, there's been insider buys in the 89-cent area. If this breaks down to the dollar area, it becomes even more compelling for me as a swing. Could be a day trade, could be a swing. If we get some volume, we take out this trend line, could be a nice day trade scalp. CVRS is, I think these guys report earnings. I'm not sure. I think they might report this week. Make sure you check all of these names before jumping into any of them. But CVRS, yes, they report on May 8th. So, it's pulled back close to the dollar holler area. It could find, it looks like the dollar to 89, 90 cent area has been acting as support, right? So it's worked off an overbought condition from over here. Stochastic starting to curl up. Now we are below the 50 and the 200-day moving average. But look, this thing it breaks above this trend line. I think maybe you get a test back up into that 165 area, and on a dollar stock, that's a nice percentage move. So worth keeping an eye on this one for earnings this week. Could be, if we can reclaim the 250-day and then eventually take out this long-term trend line that I have here, this red trend line, that could be a trend reversal. Could be worth keeping an eye on. CVRS. LLNW reported last week, or maybe it was the week before, gapped up, consolidating, got a floating island here. looking for this to take out 530 with some conviction. Maybe even look to take it as a swing on a pullback to say 460 or so. But I like the way LLNW has been holding up after their earnings. It was good earnings report and good guidance from Limelight. I think it's worth having on the radar, maybe for a swing, potentially for a day trading opportunity. MBII, they report this week. This is a potential cannabis play. Now, they just did a big restructuring. I'm not exactly sure how this quarter is going to come in, but they did a capital raise at a $1.65, $1.75 in that area. Little restructuring action going on there. This is a potential cannabis play because they have a biologic pesticide. It's instead of chemicals, it's biologic, and the cannabis space has started to use this, and a particular cannabis customer has very quickly become one of their biggest customers. So that could start to spread into the space. I'm interested to listen to the call, and I think this is kind of an interesting play on it. It's an agricultural play. Mosaic reports this week as well. These guys report on the 10th. It's been kind of consolidating here. Look, if it were to pull back to the 200-day, I might be inclined to take it as a higher risk swing or long-term hold consideration. If they report good earnings and good guidance, you could see a break over 2 with some conviction. Could be a day trading opportunity, could be a higher risk swing or long-term hold play, depending on your risk appetite. NIHD, after the close on Friday, reported earnings, and this has been consolidating really, really nicely, right at an area of long-term potential price resistance. So, not sure. I think they beat. Let me see here. Or no, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Oh, it looks like they report on May 8th. What did I say? I saw something after the close. They report on May 8th. It's been consolidating. This thing has been stair-stepping up. Let's see what the earnings come in like on next week. If it pulls back into the $2 area, provided earnings are decent, this could be an interesting spot to take it for a bounce play. Keep it on your radar for next week. NR, another energy name. Great looking setup on the daily, and looks a lot like RIG, right? Great looking setup. Like I said, we could see some money rotate out of this space. This could just continue to consolidate, but pull back into the $9.80, $10 area could be an interesting spot for a swing. What was resistance maybe acts as support, but I like the look of NR quite a bit on the daily time frame. SMMT. So Biopharm Catalyst, these guys have phase 2 data estimated for June 2018. This has been consolidating, looking at a potential flat top breakout. And I think they have a presentation. Let's see. Let's see. Or maybe they already had a presentation. But I like the way this thing has been consolidating. You're looking at a potential flat top breakout. Somebody came out with a $147 price target on this thing in April of 2018. That is a pretty aggressive call. Maybe need to wait for this phase 2 data to come out in June, but this thing could break ahead of that data. You need some volume. This traded 11,000 shares. I just like the technical setup on it, and I think it's at least worth having on your radar, knowing that there's a potential catalyst here. Small float, big price target on it. Actually, let me see exactly what the float is. Hold on a second. Okay, it's got 11.5 million shares in the float, so a very tiny float. But this one could be worth keeping an eye on. and then at least having it on your radar, like I said, for that potential catalyst that may be coming up here. All right, CVSI. Another one of the pro members actually pointed this out to me this weekend. This is another potential cannabis play. Now these guys just extinguished or got rid of their convertible debt financing and paid it off, and that is a good thing, and that's probably actually what gave it this little pop here. Now it's pulling back to an area of potential price support. I think, pull back to 50 cents. It gets interesting as a speculative cannabis play. They are cash flow positive, which I thought was pretty encouraging. Actually, this company supposedly is based in Las Vegas. I'm gonna go try and maybe meet with management here and get to know a little bit more about the company. But considering for a potential long-term high-risk play, and could also see a day trading opportunity. Maybe we drift back down, like I said, into this 56, 55 cent area or 50 cent area. See if that holds the support for a bounce, and then I think maybe you get a test back up into the 87, 90 area. Maybe even test the $1 holler. I like the look of CVSI on the daily time frame. RCKT is another one that has a potential catalyst coming up. Phase 1-2 data due out May 18th. It's been consolidating for a while here, right at the 50-day. Small float. Traded 84,000 shares on Friday. Look, another one just to have on your radar, knowing that there's a potential catalyst coming up here. Maybe it runs into that catalyst. Make sure you're out before that catalyst, and then maybe take a look at it after the catalyst, right? But worth having on the radar. RXII, another one, has conference on May 8th through the 9th. Phase 2 data should be out in May of 2018. So this one has been kind of consolidating. Expecting data next week. 4.2 million shares in the float. Could get a pop off of this one. Just did a reverse split. So worth keeping an eye on it. We've had some reverse split low float runners recently that have gone a little bonkers. RXII, at least you know that there is a potential catalyst this week. So put it on the radar. MTCH got killed off of Facebook's announcement that they're stepping into the space. MTCH reports earnings this week. Now, it is looking like a bear flag right here, but this one I think has potential to have a pretty significant rip your face off rally if they report strong earnings, give good guidance, and don't sound like they're totally panicked that Facebook is entering the space. So worth keeping an eye on MTCH for maybe a day trading opportunity, maybe a swing play if they report good earnings and good guidance. Mosaic, as I said, reports earnings this week. Could be interesting for the agricultural space. Potential flat top breakout here. Looking for a break over 28 with conviction. It's a thicker stock, 384 million shares in the float. Listen, if you don't want to play Mosaic, then potentially you can look for some sympathy plays in the ag space, right? So worth keeping an eye on Mosaic. And then another one that actually already has earnings behind them is IPI. All right, so IPI actually already reported earnings, got a great looking setup on the daily. Worth keeping an eye on this one as a sympathy play. This has had some insider buying in 3 and change, 344, 330. Let's see where else. I think it's had a lot of insider buying. 330, 344, 330, $3. Right, so pull back to 390 or so, $4. 380 could be a great spot to take it for a long-term hold consideration or a swing. And we could get a bounce off this 20-day, take out that trend line, get a pop back up to $5 for a day trading opportunity. So worth keeping an eye on. IPI. And let's see here. What else do we have going on? ATVI, Activision, reported earnings last week. Tremendous earnings. A very weird way that the earnings got reported, but it's been consolidating and hanging out on top of the 200-day moving average. This is a thicker stock, more of a swing or long-term hold play. Had a nice pop. Flirting with a 70 roll. Right? Maybe we go back up and test that $79 area. But if you look at this thing on a long-term chart, it's lower left, upper right, sitting on top of the 200-day. Maybe you get a red to green. Look, if this thing pulls back to $64, $65, I think it's worth at least starting a position for a potential long-term hold. Look, if it breaks below there, then you look for your next area of potential significant price support and look to add to the position. Is my belief for a long-term hold. But I like ATVI. Could be a day trading opportunity if we get some range on a pullback, red to green. And could be a long-term hold consideration on a pullback to price support. BABA reported earnings. And had a nice pop on Friday. This could look for a red to green. We could look for a red to green here, potentially pull back to about 182, 183. Pretty good range on Friday. 182, 183, look for that to act as price support. And then, this is also, for a lot of people, could be considered a long-term hold consideration. Where ideally that price would be is somewhere around 165 or so. If it were to pull back there, it's acted as support several times. That could be a great place to get a starter going. Look, if the overall markets roll over, you're going to see BABA. If it breaks below this 165 area, you're going to see, you can see it pull back to 156, 155, maybe even pull back all the way down to 150, 147. So you just recognize the different areas of potential support if you're looking to build out a position to hold over time. But this one could be a red to green move, could be a day trading opportunity as well. And then I'm going to end this with BZUN, which is one that typically does move in sympathy with BABA. They reported great earnings back here. That was the gap up. It's really been in consolidation mode since reporting those earnings. Maybe a pullback to $42. That's an interesting spot to take it for a swing. And if we break out through this little trend line here, maybe we get a pop up into the $51, $52 area on BZUN. So that is my list for the week. Hopefully the Bulls can take control. We'll see what happens next week. But don't chase. Always have a plan. Always know your risk reward and know what time frame you're taking the trade for. Go check out the blog over at outfultrading.com. And if you're interested in becoming a member, it's $197 a year. $197 a year, and you get this type of breakdown every day. Every single day. All right, good luck trading out there, and I'll see you all next week.